good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SEET Academy's webinar. Today, we'll be welcoming the amazing tutors from the FET phase, and I'd like to give them 30 seconds to tell us exactly what they do here at SEET Academy. We can start with the lovely lady above, Sylvia, if you don't mind to introduce yourself and bless us with your presence. Don't forget to unmute your mics.
It's not coming through.
Sylvia, we can't seem to hear you. Is your mic unmuted? Sorry, or connected? Lovely. Okay, it seems you might have a bit of a technical audio error. We can't seem to hear you. While Sylvia sorts that out, I'd like to introduce Juliet. She is one of the phase leads as well for the FET phase. If you'd like to tell us more about exactly what it is that you do here at SEET Academy and just your experience overall for the first term or this year. Don't forget to unmute your mic, please.
Okay, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. It's such a great privilege to be here. My name is Juliet Dube. I usually tell my learners that you can call me Miss Dube. I teach FET first, that is to grade 10, 11, and 12 tourism. And I've been teaching actually at SEET Academy since 2020. So I'm also an FET phase head at SEET Academy. So yeah, that is just a little bit of myself. Thank you.
And Juliet, before we go, what exactly is the FET phase? I know this is, but there might be some viewers that don't exactly know what the FET phase stands for.
Okay. So when we talk about FET phase, this means that those are the learners that are now doing grades 10, 11, and 12. So when you're done with your grade 9 and then you have to shift to grade 10, 11, 12, that is whereby we group you in the FET phase.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for that. And then we'd like to introduce the lovely, oh, Sylvia, are you back? Can we hear you now?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Sorry for that, guys. My mic was working perfectly and I think it got stage fright. And then it was like, nope, it's not going to happen. So I just quickly switched around. Okay, so sorry for that, everyone. My name is Sylvia Mattia. I'm the director of the senior and FET phase that goes from grade 7 all the way till 12. Lovely stuff. It's a lot of stress, but we do it. And I am involved in all the procedures behind the scenes. So everything academic, everything assessment related, that is my babies.
Lovely, lovely. And then we'd like to just pass the introduction on to Wyona Watt, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, ma'am.
Yes, you are. It's fine. Thank you very much. My name is Wyona Watt, and I am teaching consumer studies. I've taught it for many years, and this is just an extension of it.
Okay.
But just so that people know, because it's a relatively new subject, and people don't know what consumer studies is, and it's actually just the old home economics with a new name. With some differences, but it's basically the same thing.
It's quite a subject. It's a subject that's in high demand, I must say. It is a lot of students and parents, they're always asking, do we do consumer studies? So I know that a lot of students, they do look forward to consumer studies.
The only thing is that if they choose to do, if they choose to do consumer studies, they must know that they've got to do a practical section as well.
And how would that take place, being registered at the online academy?
They do practical, 3 practice during the term, and then they have to take a picture of these beforehand and during and after sort of thing. They can do a video as well. And then when it comes to the final practical exam, then you put 4 of them on at the time, and they must live. It must be on live.
Okay, lovely. So they still get to do some practicals at home. That's very, very interesting. Yes. May I introduce Chelsea? Chelsea, if you can introduce yourself, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Chelsea Lambert, and I am the history tutor. I tutor the FET phase, so grade 10, 11, and 12. I'm fairly new at SEET, but I'm definitely enjoying my stay.
Lovely. Very, very interesting subject. Maybe go to the... we have one more lady. So ladies first. So Mrs. Kutsi, can you please bless us with your presence and introduce yourself today?
Hello everyone, my name is Amy Kutsi. I'm the geography tutor, FET phase.
Lovely. And then may I ask Mr. Dylan Stark if you can introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Dylan Stark. I'm the accounting FET phase tutor as well as the economics administrator for grade 11. I'm also fairly new to SEET Academy as well. It's my first year here.
Okay, lovely. And how has it been so far?
Loving it, completely loving it. I come from a conventional school. So the online, for me, the process online is much better for me.
So it's very different?
Not too bad when it comes to accounting. In accounting, you don't really do too much orals or practical things. It's more written down and things like that. So for me, accounting is really made for the online experience.
Okay, awesome. And then may we introduce Mr. Shane Weddy?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shane Wary. I am the physics tutor for FET phase. I'm also relatively new to, well, actually very new to SEET Academy. I just started this year, and yeah.
Okay. And is this the first time that you're doing online schooling as well? Do you come from a practical?
This is the very first time I'm doing things online. Physics and math and everything I've dealt with, I've been used to face-to-face, in-person teaching, and the experience is different. It makes life, I would just say it makes the subject a lot easier to teach because there are so many different things you can use to get across the explanations with like videos and things like that. And it just makes life a lot easier. There's a lot more communication in live classes because obviously in person at school, students are all together in person. They might be shy to answer questions, ask questions, whereas in live classes, online, they can just put it in a chat. There's more engagement with students because they feel like they don't have the stage fright because they're not in front of everybody. So I feel online schooling is a very good way to go, and it does bring students who do have like stage fright, it does bring them out their shell because they have this, in a way, like this cloak in front of them, so they're not in front of everybody, but they are a bit more at ease to engage with everybody and to engage in the actual lessons taking place.
Definitely. And I mean, the subjects that you're teaching, it's like the main subject. So it is very important. But thank you so much for that introduction. And then it seems that we lost Mr. Talenti. Am I correct? Am I pronouncing his name correct? Oh, welcome. Okay, awesome. So he's just reconnecting at the moment. Hi, welcome.
Hi, sorry about that. My network's really bad at the moment. I do not know why.
No problem. Could you tell us more about yourself and the subject that you teach here at SEET Academy?
I'm a student. I do not teach.
Oh,
but then my name is Talent.
You look very intellectual. I'm so sorry
I recently
about that.
joined SEET.
Okay, lovely. That's a big
No
compliment, hey?
problem.
I'm just saying, hey, maybe you meant to be a tutor here at Seat Academy in the future.
I recently joined. Hope so. Hopefully, maybe. I recently joined Seat Academy this year, beginning of January. The reason why I joined was because I was looking for a school that offered isiZulu as a second additional language, because most online schools don't offer isiZulu. They only offer Afrikaans. And so I found Seat, and the thing that surprised my mom was that it was also the most affordable school out of all the online schools, and
Yeah.
the teachers are very supportive, and they help our students. Yeah,
So, what's your favorite subject? No pressure.
I have two favorite subjects. It's math and physics.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then who may your tutor be, if I may ask? Oh,
Mr.
lovely.
Mr. Waring and Mr. Pfeiffer.
Okay, awesome. So, this is the first time that you've been with the online academy. Am I correct?
No, last year I was also in a online school, but I changed because I needed to change my second additional language. So
I
this
see.
isn't my first time being in an online school. I'm used to it now. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I just want to move back to the phases. Sylvia, I just wanted to find out, since we are at the end of our first term, and I'm probably correct in saying that a lot of you are very relieved that the first term has finally come to an end, and our second term will commencing the 4th of April. So I'd just like to know, how did the first term assessments go?
Okay, so the first term assessments went fairly smooth. I'm just checking you guys can hear me, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
yes.
So it went fairly smooth. However, our timetable, if we look at the scheduling of the assessments, right, our timetable was a bit, I would say, on top of each other, but not much. The reason for that is, like, when you leave Seat Academy and you go to a university, for example, right? You're going to still have your whole day of classes up until 5 o'clock, and you're going to have to write a 3 hour paper at 8 in the evening. So we always try to look at how things go outside of Seat Academy, like the university rules, the pressure outside, and try to implement it slowly in Seat Academy so that students are not shocked when they come across this in their life. So that is usually why we do things the way that we do things. However, we are scheduling it a little bit different in term two. But we still going to try to keep to the same state of mind where we're preparing our learners for their future. And if we're going to sugarcoat and make everything floral, as you know, it's not going to be as nice when the hard reality hits after school. I mean, I still remember my university days, and it's, honestly speaking, I'm so happy it's behind me. It was tough. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you so much for that. So we had a parent that had asked us, why is there a reason why some tutors cameras is off during live classes or
Okay, when
during
it
live
comes
lessons?
to tutors, yeah, when it comes to tutors having their cameras off during the live classes, usually it's mainly because of network. Okay, so when we're sharing our screen in a live class, now I remember this because I was a tutor last year as well, taught math and physical science. So when you share your screen, it takes a lot of CPU out of your device, right? So automatically the signal drops a little bit. So So you're going to experience a glitch, or you're going to freeze constantly, and the kids is not going to be able to hear you. So I usually advise my staff to keep their camera off when they join class. And obviously, if they have a casual discussion, they can turn it on. We usually, the last week of school, tutors play TikTok videos for our students to ease up to the holiday that is starting, get the spirits going. So it's not compulsory for tutors to have the camera on in class, or students. I know
Okay.
some
Yeah.
students also like just to roll out of bed and join class.
Awesome. I get you. So I just want to go. Thank you so much for that, Sylvia. Juliet, what do you do differently to engage your students in classes, in lessons?
Okay, so when it comes to FET phase, it's a little bit different from the senior phase, because last year I used to teach the senior phase, whereby you need to actually put more energy on that. But when it comes to FET phase, the grade 10, 11, 12 in tourism class, firstly, I'd just like to welcome them, and I welcome them individually. Like the minute when they join, just 5 more minutes, I greet them one by one to just let them know that everyone is important and I'm aware that you're in class. And then after that, I usually ask them, how was your weekend, or how is your week? And in most cases, when I ask them that question, I mean it. So I sometimes they will just post what they think in the chat box, and when I'm just responding to that, let's say for instance, I will say, Sasha is saying this and that. So sometimes I change my accent. Oh, Sasha say, I'm so happy. So some of them will start to laugh, and they will engage by doing that. So the other thing that I also do is to just because I teach tourism, so it's something that you can relate to different things, whether you're going to be traveling to Dubai or Australia, because tourists is not just people who travel outside Africa, but you can be a tourist if you travel to Durban from Cape Town. So I try to relate what I teach with what is currently happening. So in that way, let's say for instance, I'll start to say, okay, if you're going to make a booking in KZN or in Cape Town, where exactly would you like to make a reservation? Do you like mountains? Okay, what about if you make a reservation in Fishhook, for instance? Would you like to an accommodation that is interesting, that have got more of technology, stuff like that? So sometimes I just let them speak, and then we'll continue with our lesson, something like that. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you so much. And then, is there any other tutor that would like to just give us a little bit of an idea of what you do differently in each of the subjects that you teach? You're most welcome to put your hand up or just unmute your mic and just give us a little bit of an idea. Hi, Mr. Weary. Thank you.
So, like a method or a way I like to engage my students is it's the way I was taught, how I see, like, especially with science, is when you're learning in a educational environment, I'm trying to reinforce this idea and concept in my students that you mustn't be scared to answer questions or say something, regardless of whether it's correct or wrong. Because 90% of the time, I've learned this from my time in science and all of this, 90% of the time, you will be wrong, but you learn more from being wrong and taking the plunge than you do from being right. Like if I'm racing to answer a question in class and I'm wrong, for example, if they say what's 2 + 2 and I'm like 5, and then I know, okay, it's not 5, it's 4. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. It's a lesson you learn. So
Yes, definitely.
being wrong and engaging, you learn, and then you know, okay, you're right, and then you in that way you actually are developing a skill where you can say, okay, I'm wrong. I need to learn I was wrong. And you're developing life skills that are not just useful for when you are in school, but if you get into an argument with someone and you realize, okay, I'm wrong, you learn to accept that you're wrong. And it's just a skill, in my opinion, that you must be outgoing. So that's why I tell my students, I'm not picking on you if I call you to answer a question, or like if I try engage my students like that. I want everyone to engage. And even if they don't want to turn on the mics and answer the question, they must put it in the chat box, regardless of whether it's wrong or right. Or if you're confused about something, you must ask. You must always state your questions, or if you're confused, always bring your confusion up, because 90% of the time, that one student that is asking the question is probably not the only student with that question. It's just that student's the only one willing to ask the question.
Yeah.
So just like that form of engagement, I'm trying to reinforce within all the students that I teach.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Hi, Mrs. Lambert. You're most welcome to go.
I just want to tell you guys a bit about what I do, because history generally for a lot of kids is a boring subject. It's a lot of content that you have to keep going through and that you have to memorize in order to pass your exams and to obviously write good essays. So what I've done with the kids is a lot of them, obviously because we're online, they have Wi-Fi. So I've made use of Netflix as one of their things to do. So there's these documentaries that come up on Netflix that are basically history. There's one at the moment called Harriet. And basically my kids are super excited to go and watch this documentary. And they come back and we have discussions on documentaries and things that relate. So it's not always about what's in the textbook and what's on the slides. They can also engage by coming back with questions from the documentaries, or wanting to say something or having a debate about things. So that's also one way that I engage with my kids, as well as encouraging them to talk, because it's very different. I come from like a normal classroom teaching kids that I see every day in front of me, and to come online, these kids actually don't really have physical interaction. So I try and encourage them before my lessons to just chat, chat to me, chat to each other. How was your day? Like this morning, they were all laughing because they were all hungry. So they were talking about that. It's not history related, but it sets the tone for the lesson, because now everyone's excited and they are like enthusiastic about what's to come. So that's just the way that I've learned to do things.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much for that. So, Mr. Dylan, would you like to give us a bit of an idea of what you do differently to engage the students?
Well, for me, really, there's nothing too much different than I do, whether when it comes to a live class or a class that I see in person. For me, the classes are much smaller when it comes to SEET Academy. So I can personally make sure each person also understands the work. When it comes to a normal class and I'm teaching about 40 kids in a lesson, there are kids that they slip through the cracks, and you can't get to making sure each child is different. They may understand the work in a different way. So when it comes to SEET Academy, I'm really enjoying having my classes of 10 to 15 children where I can personally make sure they each understand what's going on in the subject. Even though we're so far from each other, I feel like it's more personal at the end of the day.
Lovely. I love that. Mrs. Kutsi.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. SEET Academy gave this amazing thing to me that I use so I can do general ledgers and sketches and stuff like that. It really helps. So one of the best things that I've used.
Awesome. Technology, I'm telling you.
Okay, can I go?
You're most welcome to.
Okay, thank you. So I agree with what Shane and Juliet said, because I'm also new with SEET Academy. But what I have learned with the students is that they are like very shy and they don't really want to speak in class. So I encourage them, if you're not confident enough to maybe speak in the class, there's always the private, like the chat box that you can type in. Then I'll ask them questions, or I will maybe say something and then I'll give them the incorrect answer, and then I'll be like, do you think that's right? And then they'll be like, no, it's not. Then they will tell me like what's the correct answer. Or if they maybe don't understand something, I'll allow them to ask me how, because like yesterday I had a student that didn't understand something and she didn't know how to ask me what, like, to explain. Then I was like, it's okay, like try in your own words, just try. And then she shared a screen and then she was like showing me pictures. She was like, what's that thing and why is it like that? Then I was explaining to her, and then afterwards everyone was like, oh, okay, they also understand, because they were also struggling to understand that. But because of her showing and bringing up that point, they also got a better understanding of that. And yeah, so also just reassuring them and telling them well done for just commenting or trying to answer something is also something very important that I try and incorporate in my lesson.
Thank you so much for that. Mrs. Wyona, what? Don't forget to
Sorry,
unmute your
I
mic.
just had to unmute myself.
No problem.
I think with consumer studies, a lot of the emphasis is put onto entrepreneurship nowadays, which is what the government are wanting, is entrepreneurs rather than people who are being employed by others. So a lot of the emphasis is on entrepreneurship in different ways. And the subject itself lends itself to entrepreneurs, that you can be baking stuff, you can be sewing stuff, and all of that can be ultimately used as an entrepreneurial task. The difference is that I think that the children don't realize that you don't become an entrepreneur overnight, and that
Yeah.
you have to actually work on it for a little while before you do become an entrepreneur. But at least it is giving them a kickstart, and they can see if that's what they want to do, and they can they can then see if it's something that takes their fancy.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Last but not least, Mrs. Sylvia Mati.
Okay, so I remember when I was teaching physics and math last year, that I came across the school website, right? It's called WHET Simulations. Now, the way I used to interest my students in class, right, is like when you open that website, there's like a lot of activities, but it's very cartoony. So it gives the physics the childlike feel, it makes it feel comfortable to do, because as soon as you hear the word physical science or you hear the word mathematics, right, everybody is like, I can't deal.
Yeah.
So having technologies that help learning of students is like the best thing we can do in general, and this comes back to the fact of what is the difference between traditional schools and online schooling. Well, there's a huge difference, because I was in a governmental traditional school while I was growing up, and I didn't have the luxury of having fancy websites to go to see if I understand something, or have a pre-recorded video lesson to go back to when I'm busy studying, right? So it's like I sit back and I'm jealous at the students that we currently have, because I wanted that. I feel like sometimes I feel like it's so unfair. I also want to be part. I also wanted to be part of something that just makes education so much better, not only for the student but for the parent as well, because in today's society you sit in a class of 40 students and you listen to the teacher, but you can only focus for about 30 minutes max, and you go home and you forgot the entire lesson and there's nothing to go back on, so that is just, I don't know, I think this is what draws me to Seat Academy. This is the type of things that I think about on a daily basis, and I'm like, you guys are so lucky, man. So that is just my little 5 cents.
Thank you so much for that. Mrs. Lambert, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, it's not related to my actual subject, but I just wanted to mention that going with this whole online school thing instead of going to a normal school actually does have a benefit on the kids. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I've been furthering my studies recently, and with everything that happened with COVID and stuff, university has completely changed. And the way we work at SEET is the way the university is currently run. So these kids are going to find it so much easier when they move from grade 12 into university next year, because they already have the background knowledge of how to work things. They have some sort of independence, because that's one thing with university. Nobody comes running to assist. You've got to do it on your own. And that's what SEET is offering, because we're not physically there to baby the kids. They have to do things on their own. They've got to submit when they need to submit. And it's one thing that is really going to benefit the grade 12s and the rest of the kids once they get to university, because the university system is no different, right down to online test. Everything is basically run similar, but on a different system. So these kids will really have an advantage in the upcoming year after joining SEET and finishing grade 12 here.
So correct. I love that. Thank you so much for that. So Mrs. Dube, I just want to go back to you. So I just want to find out, is there any problems with how we upload work? Have you found that we had any issues, especially this term? Don't forget to unmute your mic.
Okay, so when it comes to uploading work, first thing that I just want to highlight is that when it comes to SEET Academy, they do what we call pre-recorded lessons. Okay, so these are the videos that are watched by the learners before the lesson starts. Okay, so it's actually something that is very good. If I just compare it whether with university level, because people are just used to traditional things. And when it comes to these recordings, it's actually accessible because every learner got access to Google Classroom. So the other good part is that it's not like library whereby they will say that it closes at 6 o'clock. So it's there 24/7. So if a learner says, no, I want to study maybe during this time, they can actually access them. Okay. And the good part about this pre-recorded lessons, they can even send questions. And now when it comes to pre-recorded lessons, as a tutor myself, I like something that is so fun. So at first I used to use Google Slides, but I was like, no, let me just try to look for something. So the good part about SEET Academy is that they don't just say, okay, this is how we do it. It's formal like this, it's tradition like this. They give room for tutors to do anything, whether it's animation slides, whether it's going to be Canvas slides, they play around with it. So it is something that is interesting. So when it comes to this recordings, a tutor is given a chance to do anything as long as it is formal and they're just also basing on the curriculum. So learners can actually enjoy, and it's not just tourism, they can also enjoy physics in a different way. They can also enjoy consumer study in a different way. So it's something that is interesting when it comes to recordings. And yeah, I really love it a lot because I like to play around and say, okay, what can I do this term? What about next term? I need to think about, okay, how can I make this fun? So yeah, it's something that is so accessible 24/7. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. So going to Mr. Dylan Weary, right? As being a tutor of two of the main subjects that we, well, almost every student requires basically for certain studies in their future. What would you say we do differently to mainstream schooling?
I think that children just need to grow up a little bit and be more mature when it comes to SEET Academy. Like Charles was talking about getting ready for university. This is perfect. After a child has been through this system for about 3-4 years, they're so used to how things are done online, because at university things are done exactly like it is here. Nobody's on your back making sure you handing in assignments and things like that. You need to know it's in your own best interest that you need to hand in these things. And I think for me, that's really the main difference. I find that you're forced to be more mature, and the maturity level shows in the children that I teach, at least.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for that. My apologies for getting your surnames mixed up, Mr. Shane Weedy and Dylan.
Can I just also add to this short little discussion?
Yes, please do.
With ensuring that the kids do like mature and getting them ready for university and things like that. Also, being an online school, the students obviously no one's there to push them. No one's there to breathe down their necks 24/7. They need to learn how to be on time, submit when they need to, but also it's teaching them how to actually find the contact information of the tutor outside of class. It's teaching them the ability to actually come seek the correct person. Because when, like, for my time at university in first year, coming from a traditional high school, I didn't know, okay, how can I get a hold of my lecturer outside of the lecturing times, and where is the lecturer? Like, I would go crazy because if I had a question that I couldn't get to during the test or during the lecture or whatever, I would panic because I couldn't find where my lecturer was. But whereas Seat Academy, we, as students, as we're not in direct contact with the students at their time in Seat Academy will have developed the skills to find the correct contact means to contact the teacher. They will have the confidence to know, okay, this is my teacher. I know I got a question. I know I need to go to my teacher to ask it. Also, in terms of the pre-recorded videos and things like that, a lot of the time when we discussing working class, maybe there is a question a student has that only has, well, the student only gets the question after the lesson. So when they're watching the pre-recorded videos, they can, the pre-recorded videos are linked to YouTube. They can put a comment on the YouTube video, and then we can get back to them. Also, what's amazing about the Academy is we have these WhatsApp groups for all the different subjects, and all the tutors are in these WhatsApp groups. But also what's nice is I encourage my students to interact with each other. So when they come to me with a question, I say, okay, ask your question again in the WhatsApp group before I get back to you. Just so I can see, okay, if they ask the question in the WhatsApp group, I'll give it 5-10 minutes to see if other students will actually answer the question. And most of the time that happens. A student will answer, another student will help their fellow students, or they'll answer a question in a way that I never even actually thought of answering. So it's got this engagement with the student and the other students, which will be vital for university, because at university you're scared, you're nervous when it's your first year. And with how we working with the students, when they rock up to university, whether it be online or in person, they will get to university and they'll have the confidence to actually go to new people, make new friends, speak to their fellow classmates, because to them it's all they've known. So that's just some of the ways and some of the means that being an online school does benefit students, especially in this day and age, as we've all seen with COVID, how things have so suddenly migrated to all being online or virtual. And also just the ease of contact, having things online and things being virtual, the fact that you have access to the content 24/7, the fact that you essentially have 24/7 communication with the tutors or with your fellow classmates. Because I mean, having a WhatsApp group with my classmates and stuff, that's only something that really started near the end of my matric year, because we were all panicking. And now the fact that the students are getting it from the first time or the first year with Seat Academy, it's just reinforcing this whole thing of camaraderie and things like that. And also, I can say I have not really seen any bullying in Seat Academy as opposed to where you get in your traditional schools. A lot of the students here have always helped each other. They've always been there for each other. And yeah, it just, I don't know, the environment so far with Seat Academy is just miles ahead of any traditional school I've been a part of through my life.
Thank you so much for that. I love that.
Shane,
So Sylvia,
sorry,
can
Shasha.
go.
Can you guys hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm still very how can I say, insecure about you guys hearing me. I don't know why, but anyway. So I just wanted to add on that, Shane. I'm loving this discussion about the universities. It goes back to what we at SEET actually want to accomplish, and that is to prepare our learners for their future. You know, so I know I'm saying that a lot, but I cannot stress how important it is that the students that we are creating an environment where they are an individual, a lot of parents, especially in the FET phase, the students are doing their own thing. They need to make sure they submit their tasks. They need to make sure that they attend live classes, because most of our students' parents are at work during the day. So I can't stress how important it is that, how important what we are doing is, like, to our kids. And hence, with that said, some students is going to struggle with the adaptation, because coming from a traditional school to an online school, there is this little moment in time where you need to adapt. Okay, nobody is looking over my shoulder anymore. Nobody is telling me do X, Y, Z, So I need to do this myself. And what we have seen lately is that usually a student joining from a traditional school to an online school, they have a slight drop in marks, but it's also not a drop where it's concerning, just for that adaptation period that's going on. And luckily this year we have an educational psychologist to help our students, especially when the term one results release, right? Our psychology department is going to go on the hunt for all the students that didn't perform the way that they should in term one, and they're going to be called into meetings and discuss ways to study and how to cope with the pressure of an online school, and how to cope with your own self-discipline, how to stick to your own study schedule, because nobody is doing that for them anymore. So they need to start, how can I say, owning up to the fourth industrial revolution. Everything is going technology wise lately, so using all your resources that you have and make the best of it. And that is what makes me so excited by being part of this beautiful journey in Seat Academy. Like, I get goosebumps.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Especially the part where we're getting all the help that we possibly can use for the students. It's so important. So we've got a question. Okay. So what I found about online schooling, parents need to be involved 100%. What I love most about SEET, it's so easy to be involved. Definitely. So, I mean, it's so vital for the parents to be a part of the students' academic lifestyle. It also encourages them when they see that the parents take responsibility or more interest in their work, and encourage them, especially, and it's very, very encouraging to see how passionate it is to have the tutors here at Seat Academy. I mean, the FET phase is so important, Um, how can parents support kids at home? Mrs. Kutsi, how can parents support kids at home? What do you think?
Okay, so I would say, when Sylvia was speaking, I was actually thinking about that. I was thinking about, at a traditional school, the children will come to school, go home, and then the parents come from work and they'll be like, did you do your homework? Why are you playing outside? For example. But
Yeah.
I would say with this online schooling, it's important, like, parents come from work, yes, they had a long day, but the child at home is also learning this independence and working hard. They have the same workload as a traditional school. So I think it's important for the parents to just take a moment, sit down with the child, ask them how their day was, and ask them, what is something interesting you done at school today? Show me, oh, what is this homework about? Explain to me what this concept is about. Something that makes them want to be involved in that learning process. So I think that that's what's important, for parents to just take a moment and actually listen to the child.
Lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. Mrs. Dewey.
Okay, so the other good part at SEET Academy that we do is that we also have got a WhatsApp group for parents for each grade. So let's say, for instance, if learners are given assignments and then the due date will be, let's say, 14 March, in most of the case, we also just post it in the groups that, okay, the assignments for all students in grade 10 is going to be due on 14 March. So it just gives them a little bit of a push, just check on their kids. Okay, so I heard that there's a due date on 14. Did you submit your work? So they can also get access to the Google Classroom. You just check, okay, yes, my learner did this and this. So it's something that is interesting. And sometimes you find that they'll send you a message privately. Okay, my learner is saying that she's struggling in this area. Can you please help me or assist me? So tutors are also ready to communicate with the parents, and we're also ready to communicate with the learners. In most of the time we are really much ready. So it's something that is interesting, because unlike the traditional school, it's just like you go to school, you're given work, that's it. And sometimes the teachers will have time with the parents, maybe on a parents day only once, maybe per term or per year, but they can access us at any time, any day. We are here. And even if they don't get good marks, they might say, okay, my learner is struggling at this time, or maybe my learner is feeling nervous, it's their first time learning online, may you please assist us? So in most of the time they'll realize that at first it might be nervous, but then they will adjust. So it's something that is interesting, that parents can engage with the tutors in most of the time. So it's something that is interesting.
Lovely, thank you. Is there any other tutor that would like to add to that? No? Okay, perfect.
Sorry, am I interrupting, Sasha?
No problem
I wanted to add
go.
something. Regarding on how parents support the kids at home, right? I agree fully with what Amy said, but I also feel like sometimes there is parents that's over involved. You need to give the student the space to learn how to manage their own study timetable, or to manage their own personal stresses, because like the previous discussion went, right? We were talking about university. The lecturer is not going to respond to your mom if you didn't submit an assignment, you know. So also to give, my main point is basically just to be involved, but not too involved. And obviously if a student slips up somewhere, then you are a little bit more involved, but give them that space to learn and adapt. That's basically what I wanted to add.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. So we have kids from different backgrounds and areas. How do we get the best out of each student? Anyone can go. What do you think? How would we get the best out of each student coming from different backgrounds, traditions, areas? I mean, we've even got international students now, and I mean, coming from a different background, I mean, the ways of understanding things and adapting and also just processing things could be different. Mrs. Lambert.
Well, for me, I think what's really important there is actually trying to get to know the kids on a more personal level, in terms of not just them attending a lesson and then that's it. And what I encourage with my students is that if there's a language barrier, or if there's something that you don't understand, seek clarity. You have my number and I am available to assist. So because some children obviously don't really know English as well as they would Afrikaans, and they might be having a difficulty in that. So maybe I could assist by translating the information for them. Maybe that will help them. So in order to get the best out of each student, it boils down to getting to know them on a more of a personal level than just academic by their marks and them being in class. So that's how I would do it.
Okay, and then do you think for the time period or the time that you have with them that you do get to know them in that time period? I mean, I know that you see them. We've got live classes from 8:30, and then we've got live classes at 9 a.m. up to a certain period, right? But our live classes isn't exactly compulsory. So how many students is joining live classes compared to those that just go to the pre-recorded lessons and the worksheet and then submit work?
It seems like to me that the kids really do enjoy the live classes because at the end of the day, it's the only time for social interaction. Other than that, it's you behind your computer screen in your books. So, what I think is our time is limited, but I think that's okay because when you give the kids too much, they tend to get lost. So our time is limited, but it's okay to be limited because at the end of the day, we know that our message is definitely getting across to them. So, yes, we may not have enough time to interact with each child individually, but we do have other platforms such as Google Classroom, such as the WhatsApp groups and personal WhatsApp messages that can be sent to engage.
Lovely. Okay, so do you incorporate things that is easily accessible in the house as part of your lesson plan?
Can I?
You most welcome to.
So when I explain like concepts of physics or chemistry to the students, I always try and make a note of relating common things that they would find in the bedroom. For example, when I was teaching my grade 10s about, matter and atoms and things, I'd always refer to like the laptop you using for the live lesson, or your arms and your legs, or the table that you're sitting on, or the table you're sitting at, or the chair you're sitting on. I'd always try use visual stimulation that's around the children to actually help them engage and actually get a better understanding. Because I find if you can make reference to things that like things everybody has. For example, since we're in online school, everyone has a computer. So if I make reference to their computers or their laptops that they use, it just helps them put two and two together and actually understand. So when I say, like, if you look outside your windows while you're sitting at your table, like everything in nature consists of chemistry, then I'll make reference to things that we know everybody has outside the window. So it's kind of like incorporating everyday things that is easily accessible. It's a very interesting and fun thing to do for physics, because the nice thing about physics, as I said, is physics, whether it be chemistry or physics, can relate to pretty much anything and everything. So it's very interesting. And also, how I get my students to also interact is the way I phrase questions, or the way I phrase things. I'm trying to spark them to say, so like with my grade 10s, I had a lesson on waves and I was using ropes as an example. And some of the students brought up the fact that, okay, my mom knits. So in the knitting, the knitting threads and stuff used is the same thing. So we talk about like that and things like that. So I find, especially in physics, as I said, it's very interesting to incorporate everyday things, because not everybody has access to exactly the same materials or utilities. And obviously people coming from different traditions and things like that have access to different things, and their way of understanding or visualizing or connecting with the subject in terms of what they've been brought up with is also very interesting, and it gives a nice lesson to the other students as well.
So
Yeah.
I agree with that, definitely. Okay, so what would you like? Oh, sorry about that. So, what would you like to say to your students, or what motivation would you like to give to future students? Anyone? Mr. Stark, would you like to give us some motivation for future students or for your students?
Well, for my students, definitely congratulations on making the mature choice to study at SEET Academy. I think you made an amazing decision for yourself, and your parents have made a great decision. I feel like the curve, as with COVID and everything that's going on, online is the future, and you've definitely made a step in the right direction for your future. And when it comes to future students, I think just do your research and have an open mind to different ways of learning. I think conventional ways work in a certain way, and online works in a different way as well. So you have to look at what's specifically good for you as a student, and for a parent, they should look at what's specifically good for the child.
I love that. Mrs. Kutsi,
So,
what motivation would you give your students?
I would say to all the students that want to join, or the students that are currently with Seat Academy, is that whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. And I just want them to know that you should never be discouraged if you are not maybe getting the same marks as your peers, because what works for them might not work for you. So find your strengths and work on that. And also that they must always stay with what their strengths are. So for example, if they love science, they should stick to science because that's their strength. And yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Mrs. Dube, what motivation would you give to our students and to future students?
Okay, thank you so much. So, what I usually do to my learners, I like to encourage them not just pass with 60, but in most cases with distinction. So, I usually to ask them, like, as a student, like, how much percentage do you desire to get, even if it's tourism, business studies? So I start with tourism. I'll emphasize on tourism. Sorry for those who teach physical science and maths, but I'll say, okay, just think about it. When it comes to tourism, you can relate it whether you're going to go as a doctor, whether you're going to go somewhere as a lawyer. You need tourism. You're gonna make some bookings there. You're gonna interact with people from different culture. So it's something that is relative to different things. So I would tell them, okay, let's say 80, let's say 70. Okay, so when we do that, then I'll say, then you need to love what you are studying. Okay, so start to know yourself better. Do you like to study while eating? Do you like to study while listening to music? Do you like to study in a quiet place? Do you like to study in the morning or in the evening? So I usually encourage them, okay, so know yourself first. Okay, now if you have a goal of saying that I'm going to get 80 or 70, you need to work on that. But also have time to just relax so that you don't overwhelm yourself. But in most cases, I encourage them, you can do it. It's possible. And in most cases, if you can just look at it, especially the matriculates that we are having, I always say, okay, so we're gonna do the past question paper and just try to revise from there and also inform you certain things. So let's relate to that. But yeah, that is it. I encourage them to get distinction, and I hope we are going to have distinctions for our matriculates as well. Yeah.
Lovely. Mrs. Lambert, what motivation would you give students?
To all students, well, we've come to the end of term one, and what I would like to say to you guys is well done for coming to the end of term one. It's not easy just to, finish term one and still feel motivated. I encourage you guys to continue feeling motivated, continue with the work ethic that you guys have. I was just saying to my classes today that history's been difficult this term for everyone. And the marks that they achieved, I told them that I was really impressed with it. They've worked on their own and they've been able to achieve marks that were good marks. And it just goes to show that they are really motivated students and they should keep it up and continue being motivated. And any goal that you set, you can achieve. There's no such thing as you can't achieve a goal that you set. So for future students as well, as I think Dylan said, do your research. But I know you won't go wrong with Teach Academy. It's a pleasure to work here and it's a pleasure to engage with each student, and the level of energy that everybody brings is just amazing. So keep it up, guys. I know you guys are going to do well and you're going to pull through this year.
Lovely. Mr. Weary.
Okay, so like the motivation that I always give my students is just recently, like our students have just written their tests and are submitting their practicals, and I know that a lot of them are very nervous for obviously the time before the test, and especially now when receiving the results, they get nervous. So just tell them, take a deep breath. There is always a chance for improvement. Like, no one did badly. All my students have done amazingly and remarkably well, but I keep reminding them, one bad test is not the end of the world. There's always room for improvement, and you must never stop improving, regardless if there's are two students, one that got 20% and one that got 80. There's always room for improvement. You must both work to improve and constantly improve. And there's a little saying I like to say, you must shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. So aim for 100%, because if you work for 100%, you might not get 100, but you're still going to get 90. So always push and work to do your best. But there's also one vital thing in that is you can only ever do your best. You can't do more than your best. Don't be forced to do better than you can. You know your limits. Push yourself to as far as you can go, but don't overwork yourself. Don't let people bring you down. Don't ever let people tell you that your best is not good enough. And
Yes.
yeah, just always work within your means. Know how far you can push yourself to improve, but don't kill yourself with all the work. Don't let, as I said, one bad test bring you down or one bad result bring you down. There's always room for improvements. And I see it's a lot of the younger students in the um, in grade 10 and things like that, that are more stressed about the results, because they think, okay, it's now the time I choose my subjects. It's now the time I made the choice to do physics. I need to do better. What students need to realize is, I speak from experience. The start of the year, when you're first starting off, there are going to be those times where you do badly, where you don't understand. But it takes time to just like get the ball going. It takes time to actually sink into the subject, no matter what subject it is. And I mean, as I said before, you learn more from failure than you do from success. So rather making mistakes in the live classes, maybe get a bad test result. If you get a bad test, you come to your teacher or your tutor, or you come to me, go to your fellow classmates, you say, okay, I went wrong here, how can I improve? You work with your classmates, and all of you will improve. So just as I said, don't take failure too hard. Constantly work to improve, and always never be quiet about a bad mark. Just like if you do badly, go to your teacher and say, "Sir, ma'am, here's my result. I didn't do as well as I wanted. How can I improve? Where can I improve?" And we can work on it together. Because remember, even like as I said, one bad test, there's always room for improvement, and there always will be room for improvement. You guys have your whole lives ahead of you. And for all our new students, listen to what I said. We are here to help. We want to see everyone reach their full potential, because I mean, no child is useless, no child is stupid. We're all good and unique and brilliant in our own ways. And we're here, SEET Academy is basically here to just look for the potential in each student and bring that potential out, because we all were put on this earth to do great things, and we can achieve those great things through SEET Academy.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Stark, I'm not exactly 100% sure if I asked you already. Yes, I asked you? Okay, perfect. So, Sylvia, last but not least, bless us with your motivation for the
Okay.
students and the future students.
Okay, so I just want to add on what Shayna said. Do your own best, not anybody else's best, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing in this world is impossible. Even the word itself says, I'm possible, you know? So that is just basically what I want to tell current students that we have and future students, that everybody they are looking at on this webinar failed somewhere. You know, we all failed something. Maybe it was a test in university, maybe it was something, but we had a blowback and we were like, you know what? I'm going to take this. I remember there was this time I got 23% for a geography paper when I was in matric. And I know the geo teacher is going to judge me on this, but then I just told myself, you know what? I'm going to try and do my best. And I ended up getting distinction and top of my class the end of the year. So it's looking at the bad thing and telling yourself, how can I make this bad thing a good thing? You know? And just being taught as everybody's like current student, new students, being part in an online schooling system, you are part of the evolution of education. And that is something big. So I just want to say thank you for all our current students and parents. And I'm welcoming all the 10,000s of students that we will have in the future.
Lovely. That is so inspiring. I'm so inspired for my weekend ahead, everyone. Thank you again to our lovely tutors for joining us today on our webinar for the FET phase, and for our students and parents currently joining this webinar at the moment. We just like to say that we hope that you have a lovely holiday, and we will see you back the 4th of April in full swing and ready to improve or just keep excelling. You know, at the end of the day, each person is individual at Seat Academy, and we take pride in that. That being said, another reminder that our grade 10 to 12 registrations has already closed, everyone. But we are taking registrations for 2013, so you're almost welcome to register your kids now already. So registration information can be requested on our Facebook or our website, or we've got a WhatsApp link to this to this Facebook page that you can get more information on. And then also, last but not least, we've also got a academic excellence program that has launched for current students at Seat Academy and students outside of Seat Academy. So if you feel like your kids or need more tutoring, I mean, it's always a plus to get them some more help, you know, for some additional help. Do contact us for more information, and I hope that you have a lovely weekend ahead. And thank you again.